Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm happy you're here today. In this video, you're going to practice English with simple real-life story. One you can use in your daily life. If you stay until the end, your ears will get better at understanding English because you'll hear easy, common sentence that people use all the time. You'll learn how to talk about health, making an appointment, describing symptoms, waiting at the clinic, and what to say at the pharmacy. Listen carefully, and if you can repeat some sentences out loud. Alright, let's begin the story. It was a normal morning at our house. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my daughter walked in slowly. She looked tired. Her hair was messy. She did not look happy. I looked at her and asked, "Are you okay?" She sat down and said, "Dad, I don't feel good." I put my coffee down. "What's wrong?" She touched her forehead. "My head hurts. My throat hurts." I said, "Do you have a fever?" She said, "I don't know. I feel hot." I said, "Okay, let's check." I went to the bathroom cabinet, got the thermometer, and came back. She sat quietly while I checked her temperature. I looked at the number. "You have a small fever." She sighed. "So I'm not going to school?" I smiled a little. "Nice try, but no. You need to rest. We need to make sure you're okay." She said, "I think I have a cold." I said, "Maybe we should be safe. Let's call the doctor." She looked warmed. "Do I have to get a shot?" I laughed. "Not today. It's just a checkup." She said, "I don't like the doctor." I said, "I know, but the doctor helps us." I took my phone, called the clinic. My daughter listened. While I talked, a person answered. "Good morning. How can I help you?" I said, "Hi, I want to make an appointment for my daughter. She has a sore throat and a fever." The person said, "Okay, can she come today?" I said, "Yes, today is perfect." The person said, "We have an opening at 2:30. I said, "That works." The person asked for her name and our information. I answered everything. Then I said, "Thank you." When I hung up, my daughter asked, "What time is it?" I said, 2:30. "We have time." She leaned back in the chair. "Can I go back to bed?" I said, "Yes, but first drink water." She said, "Okay." I poured her a glass of water and said, "Drink slowly." She took a few sips. "Thanks." I said, "Also eat something small, maybe a toast." She made a face. "I'm not hungry." I said, "That's okay. Just rest. We'll go later." She went to her room and I stayed in the kitchen. I cleaned up and did a few things around the house and kept checking on her. Around lunchtime, I knocked on her door. She said, "Come in." I walked in and asked, "How do you feel now?" She sat up slowly. "My throat still hurts." I said, "Okay, we will go to the doctor soon." She asked, "What are they going to do?" I said, "They will ask questions. They will check your throat. They will check your ears. They will listen to your breathing. It will be quick." She nodded. "Okay." I said, "Do you want to bring a jacket?" She said, "Yes, I feel cold." I said, "All right, get ready." And a little later, we got into the car and drove to the clinic. On the way, she looked out the window and said, "Dad, what if I have something bad?" I said, "Most of the time, it's just a cold or a small infection? The doctor will tell us. She looked at me. Do you promise? I said, I promise. We'll take care of you. She smiled a little. Okay. We arrived at the clinic and walked inside. The waiting room was quiet. We walked to the front desk. A reception looked up and smiled. Hi, how can I help you? I said, we have an appointment at 2:30. She said, what is the name? I told her my daughter's name. The receptionist said, okay, please sign in here. I signed in and filled out a short form. Then she said, please have a seat. The nurse will call you. We sat down. My daughter sat next to me and held her water bottle. She whispered, I don't like waiting. I whispered back, I know. We just need to be patient. We waited for a few minutes. Then a nurse opened the door and called my daughter's name. My daughter stood up slowly and said, that's me. The nurse smiled. Come with me. We followed the nurse down a hallway. She took us into a small room. She said, please sit here. My daughter sat on the exam table. I sat on a chair. The nurse said, I'm going to check your weight, your height, and your temperature. She checked everything and wrote it down. Then she asked, what brings you in here today? My daughter looked at me, so I helped. I said, she has a sore throat and headache and a small fever. The nurse nodded. How long has she had these symptoms? I said, since this morning. The nurse asked, any cough? My daughter said, a little bit. The nurse asked, any stomach pain? My daughter said, no. The nurse asked, any allergies? I said, no allergies. The nurse said, okay, the doctor will be here soon. She left the room. My daughter looked at me and said, Dad, what if they do a throat test? I said, they might. It's quick. It doesn't feel great, but it's fast. She made a worried face. I don't want it. I said, if they need it, we do it. It helps the doctor know what you have. She sighed. Okay. A few minutes later, the doctor came in. The doctor smiled and said, hi, how are you today? My daughter said, not good. The doctor nodded kindly. I'm sorry. Let's see what's going on. The doctor asked, can you tell me what hurts? My daughter said, my throat hurts and my head hurts. The doctor said, do you have a fever? My daughter said, yes, a little. The doctor said, okay, open your mouth. Say, ah. My daughter opened her mouth. Ah. The doctor looked at her throat with a small light. The doctor said, okay, I see some redness. Then the doctor checked her ears. Now I'm going to listen to your breathing. Take a deep breath in and out. My daughter breathed in and out slowly. The doctor said, good. Then the doctor asked, have you been around anyone sick? My daughter thought, maybe at school. The doctor nodded. That can happen. Then the doctor said, I want to do it quick. Throat swab to check. For strep throat. My daughter looked at me with big eyes. I said softly, it's okay. It will be fast. The doctor said, open your mouth. Again, say ah. Try not to move. My daughter opened her mouth. The doctor did the throat swab. My daughter pulled back and said, ugh. The doctor smiled. I know, not fun, but you did great. My daughter said, I hate that. The doctor laughed gently. Most people do. The doctor said, we will get the results in a few minutes. So, We waited. My daughter sat quietly. I held her hand for a minute. She said, "Dad, I'm tired." I said, "I know. You can rest when we get home." A few minutes later, the doctor came back with the results. The doctor said, "Good news. It's not strep." I felt relief. Okay. My daughter said, "So, what is it?" The doctor said, "It looks like a virus. That means antibiotics will not help. The best thing is rest, water, and simple medicine for a fever and pain." My daughter asked, "So I just need to rest?" The doctor said, "Yes. Rest, drink water, eat light food, and stay home from school tomorrow." My daughter's eyes got big. "Tomorrow too?" The doctor smiled. "Yes, your body needs time." My doctor looked happy, but she tried to look serious. "Okay." The doctor said, "If the fever gets worse, or if she has trouble breathing, come back." I said, "Okay, thank you." The doctor said, "You're welcome." We left the clinic and walked to the car. My daughter said, "I'm glad it's not strep." I said, "Me too." She said, "Can we stop at the pharmacy?" I said, "Yes, we need medicine." So we drove to the pharmacy. We walked in, found the medicine aisle, and I said, "We need fever medicine and throat lozenges." My daughter picked up a box and asked, "Is this good?" I read the label. "Yes, that works." Then she said, "Can we also get tea?" I smiled. "Yes, tea is good for your throat." We bought what we needed and went home. When we got home, I said, "Okay, first wash your hands." She washed her hands. Then I made her a warm cup of tea. I said, "Sip it slowly." She took a sip. "That feels nice." I said, "Good. Now take your medicine." She said, "Do I have to?" I said, "Yes. It will help you feel better." She took it, made a face, and said, "Ew." I laughed. I know. Then I helped her get comfortable on the couch. I gave her a blanket and a pillow and the TV remote. She said, "Dad, can I watch a movie?" I said, "Yes. But you need to rest." She nodded. Okay, a few minutes later, she looked at me and said, "Thanks for taking me." I said, "Of course. I'm your dad." She smiled. "You're a good dad." I said, "I try." And that was the end. And simple morning, become a doctor, visit, and everything turned out okay. Because we stayed calm, we asked questions, and we took care of her. If you liked it, please subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. See you in the next video. Bye!